So, the mysteries of the Watcher. The Watcher brought along many mysteries to the already kinda confusing world of, well, Rain World. Well, I cannot explain everything, and most of what I say here will likely be proven wrong with the next update to Watcher. I believe I have an explanation for the biggest mysteries of this DLC. First, does the Watcher actually travel? Well, while some people have suggested that the Watcher simply travels through memories or dreams, I believe the Watcher does indeed travel to different material places. Why? Because the echo spinning top gave them this power, and echoes can observe, watch one could say, different places and times, being spread across the cycles as they are. Okay, but if the Watcher truly travels through time, doesn't this break the timeline with Downpour? Well, I'll come back to this after talking about it. So this guy spawns way too many questions. Like, just what is this guy? To be honest, I'm not quite sure, but the thing that seems to make the most sense to me is that he was created by the rod assimilating an iterator. But there aren't iterators in Outer Rim, only Starcatchers, I hear you say. I know, but it doesn't make sense otherwise. Besides, this room looks too much like a rotted puppet chamber to be anything else. Maybe the benefactors built an iterator to take care of the Starcatchers, I don't know. Well, my point is, this iterator managed to create a variation of the rod much more powerful than the one Pebbles made, a purple one. This rot can infect creatures and essentially assimilate them, turn them into more rot while keeping some of their traits, such as Cyan Lizard's jump boost. This is true, by the way, rotten Cyan Lizards can definitely still jump. I believe this is what happened to the iterator which accidentally created this rot. The rot consumed the entirety of the Can, Starcatcher, or whatever this iterator inhabited. All of the neuron flies, container creatures, and biomass of the iterator was converted to rot. But something remained. That something was a consciousness. Not the iterator's consciousness. The iterator died, but a new one. That consciousness is the prince. For a long time he was bodiless, just a mind containing the rod found at the throne. But when he was finally given a body, that body was one which his iterator processors turned rot could easily control. A puppet. Not the reanimated puppet of the original iterator, but a new puppet made of rot. Now, about his goal. I believe that he's in some way trying to solve the great problem. He says it himself. The imperative that was in them remains in me. The way he's doing it, though, is not something any sane iterator would have thought of. He wants to effectively negate the cycle by turning everything into rot. When something dies, it comes back as another creature, usually of their same species, since I doubt the benefactors would have gotten as far as they did if they were just bat flies and popcorn plants in humanoid bodies. But I don't think this is always the case. If there was a singular green lizard left in a world of rot, when it died, it would have to come back as rot, since there's nothing else. And when everything is rot, a rot patch would only die to be reborn as another patch of rot. It's as if it had never died in the first place. No more cycle, just rot, forever. Now, I don't believe the prince intended the Karma Flower takeover. I think this only happened because, well, the cycle had finally been broken. Listen, if everything is rot, forever, it's in some way as if they had already ascended. There's no more cycle after all. Thus, when the Karma Flowers bloom, they do just that, ascend everything. In the end, although the iterator researching the great problem died to the rot, it was said rot which solved it for them. Okay, so that explains the prince himself, but doesn't explain how this purple rot got everywhere. Duh, portals, you would say, except there was already rot in the base game areas before the Watcher started teleporting everywhere. I'd say this is simple. Who gave Watcher those powers? That's right, Spinning Top. The other echoes lingered in the places which had tied them to the material realm and made them unable to ascend, right? Well, what if they lingered there for another reason besides it? Because moving was dangerous. You can find Spinning Top in rotten regions. They aren't afraid of going to places full of rot. What if they passed through the throne before the events of the campaign and then teleported to the base game map? Maybe, just like Watcher does when teleporting, they can pull creatures with them when they move around. This would be a rather logical way for the rot to have traveled away from Outer Rim. So we covered the prince, and the portals, and what else? Right, that. Well, I believe that this is not only totally real, but also in 5 Pebbles Can. How? Well, fine, I know this is a big stretch, but hear me out. I think this is a creation of the prince. Why? How? Well, listen. The prince's goal is void related no matter how you look at it. He wants to break the cycle. The Karma 10 symbol is even placed right there, right next to the prince himself. The same symbol Saint used to ascend everything. So what could symbolize those two things, the void and the rot? Well, what about a void worm made of rot? I don't even know if this is something unique to Pebbles or if the prince did it to all iterators, but I believe the prince created this as a monument to his work, a living piece of art to show the world what his goal is. His rot was already there at the beginning of the Watcher campaign. It only needed to spread a little more to find 5 pebbles and all the biomass contained within. This might not look like an iterator superstructure, but it's just because we're used to seeing it with all of its inner machinery, at least mostly intact. I believe the rot hollowed out the entirety of 5 pebbles can, and converted all of his biomass, walls and everything to rot. All of it. One rarefaction cell is enough to cause gravitational effects and distortions. What about multiple of them? They might just be enough to make the entire can 0G. If the entirety of 5 pebbles is contained in that rot voidworm, I wouldn't be surprised if the voidworm's head was actually 5 pebbles' rotten puppet. Now, onto the most confusing place in Watcher campaign. Yes, more confusing than Unfortunate Evolution. I'm talking of course about Daemon, however you wanna call it. Now, why is everything here floating? This could be in space, except I'm pretty sure there is no such thing in the Rain World universe, so what is it? Well, I'm thinking, you know how the thing that keeps the ground, well, existing, is the dust raining from the sky? What if that ever stopped? I'm thinking that Demon is a place in the farthest future, after everything has ascended because of the prince's actions, and the rot has disappeared, after life has disappeared from the world entirely, and the dust raining from above has ceased to fall. Then, and only then, nothing would be stopping the Void Sea from consuming everything. The place we can get to in Demon was the tallest thing ever constructed by the benefactors, maybe even the ancients, who knows, the highest point in the entire world. As such, it's the last place to fall into the Void Sea, surrounded by the remnants of the rest of the world, now floating due to the weird gravitational effects of being near the Void Sea. So, finally addressing the timelines. Well, you see how Downpour was originally a mod. Well, I would say that this is a sign. It's a sign that we have 2 timelines here, not just one. The main game likely happens in both, but that's where they split off. On one timeline we have the world of Rot, the world of the Watcher, and on the other we have a timeline where the world is covered in snow by the end, instead of, well, Rot and Karma flowers. So yeah, that would explain how, on one timeline, Pebbles is converted into a giant rot voidworm, and on another he's eventually ascended by Saint. Weirdly enough, in both he ends up ascending in the end. So yeah, that's my entire explanation of the mysteries in The Watcher. Are most of them a stretch? Definitely. Am I willing to take them all as canon? Yes. That's why they call it headcanon. Anyways, I hope you found this interesting and, well, yeah.